LLCs are, well, they're not so new anymore, but they're relatively new as compared to corporations. And LLCs really marry the best part of a partnership with the best parts of a corporation. It has flexibility. You can operate an LLC as one person. It could be your LLC, or you can have it with multiple owners. Owners are considered members, so that we're talking with the right legal nomenclature. You establish it formally, so it's the first enterprise that we're talking about that has a formal birth. Okay, so what you're doing is you're filing a document with the state that is following the state's guidelines, and it's a contract with the state essentially. And so if you follow what the state says you need to do, in return it gives you back some protections, personal insulation from liability as the owner. So that is a huge benefit. You typically have what's called an operating agreement, which I'll speak to a little bit more in a second. But LLCs can be perpetual, okay? So they don't necessarily go away when the owner goes away. Okay, so it's really a key distinction here, which is sometimes hard to understand. But when you form an LLC or a corporation, that enterprise becomes a legal person in the law. So it's not a person, obviously, but it becomes a legal actor. It can do the things that you and I do in our personal lives. It can hold monies, it can make a contract, it can hold assets, it can employ people, and it doesn't necessarily go away because you aren't around anymore as the owner. It still exists. Or, of course, it can be automatically sunsetted if you want to. It has flexibility. So the key consideration, and it's a double-edged sword with an LLC, is its flexibility. So LLCs are eminently flexible, and that's by design. So if you go in your spare time and you read the legal code for LLCs, you'll find that it's only a couple pages long, and that's by design. So if you go to the legal code when you read about corporations, many pages. So when LLCs were formed, it married the best attributes, like I said, of corporations and partnerships. And it allowed the owners, the members, to really write their slate as to what it is and how it is they want to operate their business. And you do that through an operating agreement. The reason why I say it's a double-edged sword is because if you don't do the things that you gentlemen referenced, if you don't have those conversations at the outset, and you don't set in stone an operating agreement, which, by the way, is very akin to a partnership agreement, okay, and you don't decide, how am I going to make decisions? How are we going to manage this business? How are we going to allocate our profits and our losses? And when are we going to make distributions and deal with capital? Then when you run into dispute, or if you run into disagreement, and you say, well, let's just go check the Maryland Code, flip to there, it says, well, see your operating agreement. So you could be in a circular problem. So that's why I call it a double-edged sword. So get yourself a good operating agreement. By the way, LLCs can be mimicked to look exactly like corporations or run just like corporations. So many people are very comfortable with a corporate structure. I want to have officers, I want to have a president, I want to have a board of directors, I want to have shares, although you don't have shares in an LLC by default, but you can have units to make it look like it's a corporation. You can do all those things. Again, that's the flexibility. Liability in an LLC is limited. So if you respect the formalities and the details of how it is to run an LLC, you as the member, the owner, or members, don't have liability, personal liability. It's not to say you can't get liability, and I'm going to talk about some of those things later, but you don't have liability.